What's going on?
Let's get right to it. Let's get right to it.
Go ahead and hit the thing, if you would, please, Lauren.
Burns and Gambo, the weigh-in. Brought to you by Revitalize Weight Loss.
What's going on is that the Phoenix Suns have announced that they have parted ways with Frank Vogel. In a statement that they released about a half hour ago, as we said this is James Jones quoted. As we said at the press conference on May 1st, team leadership, including myself, Josh Bartelstein, and ownership would be looking across basketball operations to determine what changes needed to be made. After a thoughtful review of the season, we concluded we needed a different head coach for our team. We appreciate Frank's hard work and commitment. We are here to win a championship, and last season was way below our expectations. We will continue to evaluate our operation and make the necessary changes to reach our championship caliber goals. We all take accountability, and it's my job, along with Josh and ownership, to build a championship team, close quote.
Yes, so they made the decision to move on carefully, making sure that they spoke to all of the people involved, players, coaches, everybody in the organization to get a feel for what they needed to do, and they felt that this was the right direction to go to. This was the right direction for the players. They didn't feel that they succeeded this year. They felt that they should have done better. It's not acceptable to lose in the first round. It's not acceptable to be swept without winning a basketball game, no matter how good the Minnesota Timberwolves will be. And so they decide to make a coaching change. That will not be all. There will be front office changes as well. I am told that will not be James Jones.
Okay.
James Jones will not be relieved of his duties, but there will be some front office changes to address some issues that happened in the front office that they want to get kind of more in line with.
Interesting, but it will not be James Jones.
No, James will not be relieved of his duties, but I do believe, from what I'm hearing, there will be front office changes that will be there to assist him and just to make sure that the front office as a whole is running better and communicating better.
Now, there's already, and we'll talk more about this specifically in the next segment of the show, but I'll just, because everyone's tuning in right now and trying to figure out the latest of what's going on with this, the name that is immediately shot to the forefront of the conversation is that of Mike Budenholzer.
Yes.
The former Milwaukee Bucks head coach who was relieved of his duties a year ago after they were eliminated, I believe, in the first round of the playoffs. But, of course, they won a championship in 2021 against the Phoenix Suns. We'll talk about him, his viability as a candidate, what it might mean for the Suns if he does get the job. But let's first focus on Frank and kind of what we know. And you've gone over a lot of the information a second ago, but we've obviously, you and I, had plenty of opportunities to have lots of conversations about Frank Vogel over the last week and a half while we were waiting for this to come down. What does this say about how tenable this was for the Phoenix Suns moving forward for Frank Vogel to continue to be their coach, given the way things ended and where things stood?
It says whatever issues they had, they felt could not be corrected. That whatever issues there was, could not be corrected. So they decided to make a change. The guy they're going to hire is going to be an offensive guy. Frank was a defensive guy. They're going to hire an offensive guy to get the most out of the talents that they have. Budenholzer fits that mold as an offensive guy. And I'll go over the coaching stuff. I'm going to let you lead the show. When we get there, I'll explain how the coaching thing is going to work and when a decision is going to be made and how it's going to be made. I will get into that so people know. But I do believe what this meant was that it was something they just did not. They came to the conclusion that the issues that were there between the players and the coach and the front office and was just something that could not be corrected at this time. Therefore, they were better off going in a different direction.
You're going to hear the phrase scapegoat used a lot today on social media. You're going to hear the word blame used a lot today when people are talking about Frank Vogel, whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else, whether it's on social media. And that certainly is going to be a part of the conversation. There's going to be a lot of people talking about Frank Vogel didn't deserve this. And I have to think to myself, that, to quote a line from one of my favorite movies of all time, deserves got nothing to do with it. I don't think this had anything to do with what Frank Vogel deserved. I think what this was about was taking something that I think we could all see with our own eyes wasn't working the way it was intended. It was very obvious the Phoenix Suns, for all the things they did that were good, I think it was really obvious the Phoenix Suns were not working the way they were intended to work, and with the window being short for it to work, something had to be done within reason to get it functioning properly. This was the only thing you could really do within reason to get that functioning and moving in the right direction outside of breaking up the big three, which we just don't think is going to happen.
No, I don't see any scenario in which the big three is broken up. You know, I was even told that the Kevin Durant stuff is not either. There's nothing to that. Kevin Durant's happy. The Kevin Durant wants to be here. That the Chad Ochocinco story about him wanting to be in Miami, that's not true. That he wants to stay in Phoenix and he has no desire to leave the Phoenix Suns. So that's also something that I was told today. But I do think this really comes down to the philosophy of the way Frank Vogel coaches. It did not mesh with a team that was built for offense and not defense, and therefore they want to get an offensive-minded coach in here to maximize the talents of guys like Grayson Allen and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. So you will see the next coach be a guy that is more tailored towards offense.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we can sit here and say, man, look at how Oklahoma City is winning games in the postseason. Look at how Minnesota is winning games in the postseason. And we can talk about defense.
They have the players.
But you have to, right, and you have to look at how this roster is constructed. And you have to, and this was, look, not to Monday morning quarterback this thing, Gambo, and not to second guess this, but you know this. We've been working together a long time. When they hired Frank a year ago, this was kind of the question mark that at least, and this was why them keeping Kevin Young on as the quote-unquote offensive coordinator was at the time seemed so valuable, because it did seem a little counterintuitive to bring in a defensive-minded head coach in Frank Vogel to coach a very offensive-minded basketball team. And you just, and I don't know this, you're the information guy on the show, I'm just the one who yaps. I gotta think, no, really, that's to put that on a promo. He's the information guy, I'm just the one who yaps. I gotta think that the players were like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? You know, like we're three of the greatest offensive players in this generation. Why are we doing the things that we're doing when we could open up our offense? I don't know. I just, that to me seemed like it was a mistake almost from the beginning to hire Frank Vogel to be their coach. Yeah,
now you got to bring in a guy. If you do bring in a guy like Mike Budenholzer, you're bringing in a guy who, you know, offensive genius and offensive sets are great, but defensively has a lot of issues. So, you know, we'll talk about that as well, because that's one of the reasons that he got fired, is that they just didn't play any defense and make the adjustments and things like that. He's a little bit like Monty. But we'll get into the coaching stuff in a little bit. I've got some information that I'll pass along at the time. But in the end, this came down to, you know, 1 year. Frank Vogel signed, I believe, a 5-year deal, and he's out after 1 year because the window to win a championship is now, and they want to win one, and they didn't feel like whatever disconnect there may have been, whatever wasn't working between Frank and the team was not something that could be fixed. So they're going to go in a different direction.
It took a while. Here's what Eddie Johnson, the Suns color commentator, had to say about that this morning with Bickley Murata.
He's not spending 100% of his time with the Suns. It's hard for him to, like, make decisions in a fast way, like, say, another owner can. And I think that's part of it. But also the other part is I think he wants to actually do his research deeply before he makes a decision. And I applaud him for that. I think everybody deserves that chance. I don't think from a spontaneous point of view that, you know, people should be subjected to decisions on their job without all the particulars, and everybody that has had conversations with the owner or what have you have come to foreclosure on that, and then they make a decision, and that's just how it should be.
And this is what James Jones, if you recall, said last week during that press conference with he and Matt Ishbia about whether the players have stopped buying into Frank Vogel.
No, I don't believe that's the case. I believe when things get tough and you're uncertain, you start to guess. And I thought that as we got near the end of the season, I thought he saw some indecision. Our guys thinking too much and not playing. And so as we continue to spend time together, we continue to build together, I think you'll see it's not about buy-in, it's about belief in one another, belief that the things that we're working on will translate in those moments. And like I said, we ran out of time.
When we come back on the Burns and Gambo show, we'll turn our attention to what's next for the Phoenix Suns and who's next for the Phoenix Suns. And the one name that very, very quickly has risen above all the others. We'll tell you who it is. Keep it right here on the Burns and Gambo show, Arizona Sports, the local sports leader.
Waldron comes set. Now the 1-1. Fastball hit towards right center field. Long run Merrill. He is not going to be able to reach it. That is down and off the wall. McCarthy walks home. RBI double by Walker. And it's now 6-3 Diamondbacks.
This is where the hunt for October begins. The home of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona Sports 98.7 and the Arizona Sports app.
Love telling you about R&K. Their window and door center is second to none. If you need new windows for your home, nobody does that better than R&K because they carry all the major brands like Anderson, Milgard, Geldwin, Marvin, and they'll do a great job for you. Replacing the windows is important, especially for those of you who had builders put on cheap, low-grade windows. You see, at R&K, they'll make sure you get the right window at the right price because they carry all the major brands, so that way they can work with you on budget. All you have to do is contact R&K at 480-626-6111. Go online at rnk.com for styles and inspirations. You're going to save a lot of money. They cut out the middleman. They do the work themselves. They don't subcontract it out. So if you need to replace 4, 5, 6 windows in your home or you want to do the whole house, R&K is the trusted company, and they have the largest showroom in the Valley. Call them at 480-626-6111 or go online at rnk.com.
This month, take a few minutes in honoring the current and former men and women of our country's armed forces. From all of us at Waste Connections, thank you to all our military personnel for the sacrifices you made for our freedom. Waste Connections. We want your trash.
Don't pay retail for your diamond engagement ring or gift. Come to cleanorigin.com. We're experts in ecologically friendly lab-grown diamonds. Mention code RADIO10 for 10% off. That's cleanorigin.com. Online or one of our retail stores.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
What drives you? At 303 Car Care, we're driven to put the best detailing products in your hands. We create every formula, fill every bottle, and test every batch of 303 at our Chicago headquarters, always with quality in mind. From cleaners and coatings to our flagship aerospace protective, you can trust that every 303 product does what the label says it's going to do. That's because 303 is driven by quality. Available at most auto retailers and Amazon.
Human trafficking is happening in your community every day. It is the exploitation of a person using force, fraud, or coercion. Every year, millions of men, women, and children are trafficked worldwide, including right here in the United States. Learning key indicators of human trafficking can help identify exploited individuals and save lives. Call 1-877-429-8477 to report a tip or visit azactic.gov for more information.
Back here to tell you about Renko Roofing and your ability to get your roof inspected before it gets super hot. You certainly want to get that taken care of right now, and you absolutely want to go with Renko when it comes to all your roofing needs. And the main reason why is they've just got so many options for you and so many choices for you to be able to look at when it comes to your roof. I mean, right now, you're talking about all the different styles that they have out there. It is absolutely amazing. If you're curious about which roof is your perfect match, each type of roof has its different pluses and minuses, but the right choice depends on your home's architecture, your lifestyle, your future plans, whether you want the sleek lines of a flat roof, the classic charm of a sloped roof. Renko Roofing is here to bring your vision to life. Light versus dark, well-ventilated roof. It makes all the difference in the world, and Renko Roofing is here to answer all of the questions for you when it comes to that. Renko Roofing is a family-owned business, a proven track record over the last 20 years. They absolutely are the company that you should call. So visit RenkoRoofing.com or call 480-418-5390. Again, go to RenkoRoofing.com. Monsoon tested, sunshine approved.
Hey, it's Luke. Frank Vogel is out after 1 year as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. So what does it all mean and what's next? We get going tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's Wolf and Luke on Arizona Sports.
All right, welcome back to the Burns and Gambo Show here on Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Once again with the breaking news today that came down Just about a half hour before we went on the air, Frank Vogel has been relieved of his duties after one season as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. And now we move on to who the next coach will be for the Suns. And I will tell you right now that nationally and locally, from our own Gambadoro, from our own John Gambadoro, and reports around the country, the name Mike Budenholzer has very, very quickly become the name that people are talking about when it comes to this job.
What I can tell you is that this will be a much different coaching search from last year. Last year, when they fired Monty Williams, they identified 10 coaches. They whittled it down to 3. They had 3 finalists. It was Frank Vogel, Doc Rivers, and Kevin Young, and they went with Frank Vogel. This will be nothing like that. There will only be 2 to 3 candidates. Mike Budenholzer is the lead guy. One of the main reasons why is because he is available. You could speak to him now. And this decision will be quick. Expect an announcement on a head coach next week.
Next week.
Expect an announcement on a head coach next week.
So fast. Very fast.
This will be very quick. They will not be interviewing 10 candidates. They will not be identifying 10 candidates. There are probably 2, 3, 4 candidates at the most. They will quickly interview and quickly make a decision on a head coach. I would expect, or you should expect, that an announcement on a head coach will come within the next 7, 8, 9 days.
Okay.
So I would expect today is Thursday. You will have an announcement next week.
Let's talk about if it really is a short list, and if Budenholzer is at the top of that short list because of his availability. Do we know who else is on that list? Do we know who else could be on that list? Do we, what other types of coaching?
J.J. Redick is not on the list.
Okay, so no J.J. Redick.
J.J. Redick is not a candidate for the next head coaching job of the Phoenix Suns.
Despite his name being speculated upon for the Lakers job, he hasn't really been connected with the Suns job. He's not a candidate.
And I just got some information I want to pass along because a lot of people are asking. I'm even getting Tim Ring chiming in here and texting me. Isaiah Thomas will not be part of the Suns front office. Changes. A lot of people are curious about that.
I know I was.
A lot of people. Isaiah Thomas, the older Isaiah Thomas. I want to just preface that because we just had an Isaiah Thomas here.
Not the point guard who was on the roster this year, but the other point guard who's the Hall of Famer who is said to be kind of the GM whisperer for Matt Ishbia. He will not be in the front office.
J.J. Redick is not a candidate to be the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, and Isaiah Thomas is not a candidate to be in the Suns front office. That I can tell you. The candidates, I don't know them all. Mike Budenholzer is the top name. I would expect he's going to get the job. But let's see if anybody else becomes available. It made the big come on who's available. But I don't know who the other candidates are. Mike Budenholzer is definitely the top name. I would imagine he's the lead guy. And maybe they interview him and they think that he's the fit and they make the hire. But again, this is going to be very different from last year. This will be quick. This will be very, very quick. You will have a new Suns head coach in the next 7 to 9 days.
All right, then let's talk about what we know about Mike Budenholzer. In case it's Mike Budenholzer.
Great coach, great offensive mind. He's not the best. Like, Giannis didn't like him. Giannis wanted him gone. So he's not the best when it comes to that. He is his offensive sets are great. The spacing of the floor, getting the most out of the offense is his strength. He lost his job in Milwaukee because of that series against Miami when they made absolutely no adjustments, got swept by Jimmy Butler. They didn't double team him with Giannis or anything. They didn't trap the ball screens. He's a little bit similar to Monty. He's a good coach. He's got his system, and he's going to run his system. The knocks on him is that he doesn't make any adjustments defensively. But you are going to get the most out of your team offensively if Mike Budenholzer is the guy.
Well, I mean, if that's the focus here, right? If that's the recognition of you've got this allegedly elite offensive team, how do you unlock them and make them the most elite? Now, I'll tell you, the lack of adjustments to me is the thing that concerns me the most about Mike Budenholzer. It's the one thing that I feel like I know about him more than anything else is that he got this reputation, especially in the middle of a playoff series, for his inability to adjust, for his inability to see what was happening over the course of the series and go, I got to tweak this, I got to tweak that, I got to change. Instead, it was more of you mentioned Monty Williams, kind of a Monty Williams level stubbornness of, nope, this is our system, this is going to work, we're going to stick with it. and we're going to see this through. And if that's who he's going to be, that to me is not a trait I love in a head coach, right? I didn't love it about Monty Williams. Certainly, I understand why that might have gotten Mike Budenholzer in trouble when he was with Milwaukee, that inability to kind of adjust on the fly. I don't know if he's gotten better at that. I don't know if he's kind of learned from previous mistakes, but certainly I think that is, for me, the number one red flag about a Mike Budenholzer taking this job is that he's got kind of this history, if you will, of especially in the playoffs, not really being either able or willing to adjust on the fly when things don't go right. And that's a big part of coaching.
So it was 5 games. I thought it was 5 games. The Miami annihilated Milwaukee in 5 games. Jimmy Butler had 35 in game 1, 25 in game 2, 30 in game 3, 56 points in game 4, and 42 points in game 5. They never doubled. They never trapped the ball screens. They left Drew Holiday on him the whole time and said, Drew, you could do this. And Drew, as good as Drew is, Jimmy Butler he shot 60% from the field.
Mm-hmm.
He shot 44.5% from three-point range. Jimmy Butler was unstoppable, and Mike Budenholzer lost his job because they never made a defensive adjustment on him. Now, with that being said, the feeling here is going to be, you've got this array of incredible offensive talent that Frank Vogel may not have gotten the most out of. And that if you can do that, like we've said all along, just outscore the other team. Mike D'Antoni had that. We're going to give up points. If you go in with that belief, okay, we're going to give up points. Guys like Jimmy Butler may go for 50 against us, but, you got to make it to where Devin Booker said, I don't know how anybody's going to guard us. And so they feel that, there's got to be a feeling that Mike Budenholzer or whatever coach comes in and will be an offensive-minded guy will get the most talent out of those 3 guys and everybody else to make this an offensive juggernaut that can't be stopped.
Do we think he can do that?
He was not a candidate last year for the job. I ruled him out very, very quickly. He was not a candidate for whatever reasons.
I wonder why.
He was not a candidate.
I wonder why.
I would think that, yes, if you're going to make a change from defense to offense, I don't know that there's a better mind out there available right now than Mike Budenholzer.
Yeah, I wonder why he wasn't a candidate last year. I wonder, I remember a soundbite from Windhorst. I think they were talking about coaching candidates a couple of days ago, and somebody asked him about Budenholzer, and he said Budenholzer is going to be very, very expensive. Obviously, that is not the issue here. It's never going to be the issue with the Phoenix Suns as long as Matt Ishbia is owning them. So I don't think it's a matter of cost. I think somebody also mentioned control, and that Budenholzer is a coach who kind of likes control over things. I don't know if he's going to find that here or not. That might be something he has to bend on a little bit. I guess the question I have is, if you're going to say this is a championship level team and Frank Vogel wasn't the guy to get them there, is Mike Budenholzer the guy to get them there? Because you're kind of, you've got this window, right? You've got this narrow little 2 to 3 year window where you've given up all your draft picks. You're banking on the big 3 being great. Is Mike Budenholzer the guy to make them, or does he have just as many questions and uncertainties as Frank Vogel did a year ago when he took the job? I tend to think that he kind of does.
Yes, he does. But I think we were always okay with, as long as you're maximizing Booker, Durant, and Beal, and Allen, and Nurkic, and everybody else that you have, the feeling was, okay, you may score 130, but we're going to score 135. And I think that's probably going to weigh that. That was always the thought. I mean, it was always the thought. None of us thought the Suns were going to be this great defensive team.
I'm laughing because I was thinking of a line that Ron Wolfley said earlier this week in which he was describing Mike D'Antoni's defense. And Mike D'Antoni's idea of defense was, you score 130, we're going to score 135. That's our defense, right? That's, and I don't know if Budenholzer's quite at that. And then I would think, in a similar vein, a lot of this comes down to him hiring the right defensive type coach to handle that side of the ball. And
keep your eye on Darvin Ham, just in case. I mean, who just got fired by the Lakers, because that's a guy that was an assistant coach for 4 years in Milwaukee. So that could be a guy. So Darvin Ham could be a name if they go with Budenholzer. Keep your eye on Darvin Ham.
Catch the excitement of the Arizona Sports Half Day Club. It's making its comeback on May 15th.
Let's
go.
The
Diamondbacks battle the Reds. Snag yourself some lower level tickets for only $9.87 by texting the word half to 620-620. Act fast. Text the word half to 620-620 to secure your seats. When we come back, was Frank Vogel